Welcome to the From My Stand podcast with Matt Hinkle. Whether you are an avid hunter, a novice, or someone interested in the sport, Matt has a unique perspective to share. Sit back, relax, and kick your boots up as Matt shares what he's seeing from his stand.
Hi friends, welcome to today's show. I'm your host, Matt Hinkle. Thanks for tuning in. Well, this is our 5th episode in a series of 5 where I have been explaining and going through with you my own personal philosophy of hunting. In episode 1, we talked about where everything starts, and that's with your goal. What is your goal this hunting season? And that's where we began. Then in episode 2, we talked about the second word in my philosophy of hunting, and that is the word ground. Where are you going to be hunting, and can your ground support your goal? In the third episode, we talked about game plan. What's your strategy going to be on that ground to accomplish your goal? Then after those 3 things are in focus for you, and you know where you're going with those 3 things, then in episode 4, we talked about gear. And what kind of gear are you going to get to accomplish your goal? Now, today in episode 5, we're going to look at the 5th word. So it's been goal, ground, game plan, gear. Today, we're going to talk about word number 5, and that is the word grit. Grit. Okay. Today's episode is on something a little bit intangible, but I think it is vitally important to everything that we do in the outdoors. Grit has to do with how bad do you want it? You know, what price are you willing to pay? How much sacrifice are you willing to give in order to accomplish your goal? Now, this carries over into a lot of things in life, but today let's just kind of talk about how it relates to the outdoors and our own hunting careers, okay? So, you know, I'll just start by saying this. You can have those first 4 things in order, okay? You can have a clear goal, a well-defined goal. You can have a good piece of property to hunt. You can have good ground that will support your goal. You can have a sound game plan, okay? You can have a strategy that makes sense, that will lend itself to success. And you can have the best gear that money can buy. But if you don't have this 5th thing that we're talking about today, grit, it's going to affect your success in the field. You know, you can have the strategy, you can have the property, you can have the gear, you can have everything right in front of you, but you still have to be able to get up in the morning and get into that stand before daylight, you know, and you've got to still kind of have that discipline and that desire to stay in that stand throughout the morning as late as you can in order to reach the goal that you've set for yourself. You know, you have to be able to sit out there in the elements and in the weather to accomplish the goal that you have set for yourself. So let's just talk about grit for just a few minutes. Let's talk about grit. So in hunting requires a lot of sacrifice to really do it right and to do it in a serious manner. It requires a lot of sacrifice. Let's just be honest. There's a lot of time commitment that goes into it. There's money that goes into it. Although I will tell you this, in this podcast, I'm not going to encourage you to bankrupt yourself trying to get the best of everything. I'm going to encourage you in this podcast to get what you need, get the best gear that you can possibly get. But there is the reality of some money that you got to spend. There's some sacrifice there if you're going to be successful in this. Also, there's a lot of sacrifice of comfort. I mean, hunting season hits right in that uncomfortable time of the year when we deal with a lot of rain, a lot of sleet, a lot of snow, a lot of cold temperatures. And so you're going to spend a lot of long hours out there. I always say you sit for hours staring at nothing but waiting on everything. So there is sacrifice that goes with hunting. And if you're a beginner, and I'm just trying to kind of point you in the right direction as a beginner, I would just say expect it. Okay, just expect it. You'll be able to deal with it a little bit more if you learn to expect it. And then, if you're a seasoned hunter, we all have our war stories. We've all got our stories about seasons that didn't go quite right, where we had things go wrong and we just had to stick to it. And so that's kind of what I'm talking about today, having that stick to itness, having that desire, having that grit where you won't quit no matter what goes on in the field. In the course of a hunting season, a lot of things go wrong. I said this in a previous episode, and I'll say it again today. If you really stop and think about the marathon of a hunting season, I'll be honest with you. In the course of a several month long hunting season, sometimes I've found that more goes right, or I'm sorry, more goes wrong than goes right in the course of a hunting season. I mean, a lot of things can go wrong. Now, the good news is it only has to go right once. And that's the day that we're always looking for. That's what we're always looking for, is that day where everything goes right. But during the course of a hunting season, a lot of things go wrong. We've all experienced not seeing deer. I've had my goal, I've had my ground, I've had my game plan, I've had all my equipment. I did everything right. And you've probably experienced this too if you've got very much experience as a hunter. But you do all those things and then you go out and you don't see deer. I've been there. I've been out and just not seen the deer that I expected to see. And when that happens, we're going to have future episodes about scouting and about how to handle things like that. But I mean, sometimes you just don't see the deer that you expect, or it may be that you're seeing deer, but you're not seeing the deer, the one that you're after, the one that you're looking for. And that can be discouraging. I mean, we're all human. That can be really discouraging when we're not seeing what we expected to see. Sometimes we see what we expect to see and then we mess up. And I've been there. I know the pain of failure in the field. I've done it more times than I care to admit. If you do this, if you hang in with this sport very long at all, you're going to feel the pain of a missed shot, or worse, a bad shot. I tell you what, I'd rather clean miss one any day of the week than hit one poorly. But if you stick to this sport long enough, you are going to miss sometimes, or hopefully not, but chances are you might make a bad shot sometime and not find one. And that can be very discouraging. And it can make you consider giving up. It can make you consider quitting. But I would tell you this, I think the way to handle that is just like they tell a quarterback to handle an interception. When a quarterback in football throws an interception, they tell him, hey, you got to shake that off. And next time you get the ball in your hands, you got to forget it. You can't dwell on that. You can't waller in that, or it will affect your next shot and your next shot and your next shot. So there's a mental toughness. There's a physical toughness that comes with hunting, where we have to be able to sit out there in the snow, sit out there in the rain, sit out there in the wind, sit out there in the elements. But then there's also, a mental toughness that goes with this sport, where, when something goes wrong, you got to shake it off and move on to the next thing. You just got to be able to move on to the next play and not be, not allow yourself to be haunted by that missed shot or that missed opportunity. But those kind of things are going to happen. Sometimes we have equipment failure. Things with our equipment just doesn't go right. Maybe with a muzzle loader, it just misfires. It doesn't go off, or your scope gets bumped, or your sight pin gets bumped on your archery equipment. But something just fails, in the field. That can be really, really discouraging. And those kind of things happen during the course of a hunting season. And so, yeah, spend a lot of time thinking about your goal, put everything you can into your ground and in your scouting, then put everything you can into your game plan. Do your homework. Try to have a sound, rational game plan that makes sense to you. Man, I tell you, I won't sit in a tree stand unless I know why I'm sitting there. There has to be some rationale. There has to be some reason. There has to be a reason I think that deer is going to show up there. So, do your homework and get a game plan together, and then get your gear, get the best gear you can get on your budget, and then take care of that equipment, practice with that equipment, and be ready to use it in the field. But at the end of the day, things are going to go wrong. You might miss. The weather's going to stink. The deer just may not do what you think they're supposed to do. You might have equipment failure. All of those kind of things are going to happen in the course of a hunting season, and it's going to test your resolve. And you're going to have to kind of dig down deep and say, how bad do I want this? Does this goal mean anything to me, or is this just something I wrote down on a piece of paper? So I would encourage you to get some grit in your hunting, where you will stick to it even when things don't go right, or go the way that you think that they should go. Remember, hunting season is a marathon. And a lot of times things don't happen day one or week one. It takes going back. But good things happen to people that don't quit. Good things happen to people who hang in there and keep hunting. I tell people this all the time. I've had days where I would have bet anything that I'd get a deer on that day. The weather was just right. My stand was just right. I was in the zone with my equipment, and I've left. I'll be honest with you. I've left the house cocky before and thought there is no way I'm going to come home without a deer tonight. And I'm going to tell you right now, I've left really, really cocky, and I've come home really, really humble, because I didn't think there was any way that I was going to come home without a deer. And guess what? I came home without a deer. When I expect it, it doesn't always happen. And then, guys, I'll tell you this, and many of you will have this same, experience. You'll have the same, testimony, or the same stories. But a lot of times the deer I've shot, some of my best deer that I've gotten, and some of the best encounters I've had with deer, just came out of nowhere. They were completely unexpected. I didn't script it. I didn't plan it. I'll be honest with you. There's been times where I sat there and thought I was wasting my time. I thought, I'm not going to see anything today. And then all of a sudden, bam, it happens. Everything changes in just a minute. And so don't give up. Good things happen to people that don't quit. My hunting mentor used to say all the time, still does every once in a while, but he always says, you don't get deer from your couch. You don't get them if you don't go. And good things happen to guys that just keep going out, keep sticking with it, keep staying at it, and you'll be surprised, I think, at the good things that will happen to you. Here's a thing. Here's something I want to leave with you on this idea of grit, and really this really strikes at my hunting philosophy, and it kind of goes like this. I should commit myself to the process, and I should commit myself to a standard of excellence, realizing that I can't control things like weather. I can't control things like deer behavior. I can't control what other hunters do on neighboring properties, or if I'm on public land, hunters around me on public land where they have just as much a right to be there as I do. I can't control the deer. I can't control other hunters, and I can't control the weather, but I can control my commitment to the process that I've put in place. I can commit myself to my game plan. I can commit myself to my ground. I can commit myself to my gear, and I can commit myself to my goal. And then, I can't control the things that I can't control, but I can control my commitment. And so I'm just going to stay committed, and I'm going to commit myself to a standard of excellence. We're going to do a future podcast on having a standard of excellence in your hunting, where you just, every time you go out, you expect good things to happen, and you are at your absolute best every time you go in the woods, even if the weather's not perfect, even if the neighbor hunter on the neighboring property is doing something you wish they weren't doing, even if the deer seem to be in a lull and they're not really cooperating, they're not doing, don't ever forget, guys, the deer don't know the rules. They haven't read books about deer behavior, and they don't always know what they're supposed to do. And so sometimes they just do what they want to do. They're wild animals. And so, the deer aren't really cooperating. Other hunters are making it hard on you. The weather might be up against you. But you know what? Every time you say, look, I have decided what a standard of excellence looks like in my hunting, and I'm going to maintain it. Even when things aren't going right, I'm going to go out or going the way I think they should go. I'm going to be the same guy in the woods when I'm discouraged that I am when I'm encouraged. I'm going to take that same mindset. I'm going to take that same philosophy. I'm going to take that same grit, and I'm going to take that same desire. And every time I go into the woods, I'm going to be at my absolute best, so that when that 30 seconds of opportunity presents itself, I'm physically ready and I'm mentally ready. When you get down on yourself and you get down on your game plan and down on your ground and down on your goal and down on your gear, you just mentally get out of the game. And then all of a sudden that buck steps out that you didn't think was going to step out. And mentally you've taken yourself out of the game. So guys, grit. We've got to have grit. We got to stay mentally tough. And, if things are going good in your season right now, man, I'm so happy for you. I hope it continues. But if things aren't going the way that you think they should right now, don't quit. I have been there. I have been as low as it can get, guys. One of the nicest bucks I ever saw in my entire hunting career. I saw this buck on a clear, crisp November morning about 18 years ago. He was a huge buck. If I would have got him that morning, he would still to this day be my personal best. He was 10 yards broadside, and I missed him. Some of you guys know what that feels like. It's painful, but I'm glad I didn't quit. I'm glad I didn't quit. When you miss, you go get your arrow, you clean it off, you put it back in your quiver, you get back in your stand, and you keep hunting. Grit, guys. Desire. Good things happen to people that just won't be denied. Well, I hope that's been a help to you in some way. And so that is the completion and the conclusion. There's more we could probably say about it. But my personal hunting philosophy comes down to what's your goal? Where's your ground? What's your game plan? What's your gear? What kind of gear do you need to accomplish that goal on that ground according to that game plan? And then get the grit to stay out there. Stay out there, because good things happen to people that stay out there. Well, we've completed this series of 5. And so we're going to be doing a lot of things in the future. We're going to do podcasts where we have guests on the show with us. We're going to feature gear. We're going to talk about hunting strategies. We're going to talk about scouting. I mean, there is just no limit to the things we can talk about in the realm of hunting and the outdoors. So I look forward to this relationship with you, the viewer. I hope that you'll hit subscribe button, hit the like button, shoot me a comment. Let me know how I'm doing. I'm a brand new podcaster, but I'm really looking forward to this relationship. And I want this podcast to be a tool that you can use and a resource. And I want to be an encouraging voice in your ear that will help you in your own personal hunting journey. So this is great, guys. Thanks for joining me. I'm your host, Matt Hinkle, and that's how I see it from my stand. God bless you. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening today. Be sure to tell your buddies and follow us on your favorite podcasting platforms. Y'all take care.